After a year of stable prices in the 992 Carrera market, the trend finally broke, putting 992s on a downward slide.
In this video I'll show you exactly how bad the situation is, what you should consider if you're a value-conscious buyer or owner, and if the shift in depreciation pattern also applies to other models.
As always on this channel, we'll take a data-driven approach while analyzing the latest price developments, compare the different generations to each other and to the rest of the market.
Let's dive straight into it.
Over here we have the trends for the 992.1 Carrera 2, base and S models. In line with the general market, values decreased after the pandemic price top. Yet, contrary to competitors, they stabilized during 2023 and remained fairly stable till May 2024. But last summer marked the end of it all.
Now, in the previous market update I already highlighted this increased weakness in the market, and now we can see that it fully materialized.
Looking at the last 6 months, we can see that the price decrease accelerated. Between May and November, base models lost 4.3% and S's 5.2%. Because the price development was quite flat before the drop, the year-over-year change is still an acceptable 5.3% in the base market and 7.8% in the S market.
It are of course the newest models which are mainly responsible for the increase in depreciation.
Over here we have the price trend in the base market broken down by model year. This shows that 2020 cars were actually relatively stable during last year. It are the other model years for which prices decreased the most.
Now, provided you're a value-conscious buyer, what should you do with this information?
You can of course wait for a moment to see how all of this will play out. Will this drop be the new long-term trend, or will things calm down soon?
But what if you want the car right now?
You can also completely ignore the increased depreciation rate. Buy a new Carrera and still call yourself a value-conscious buyer. I will show you later why. Alternatively, you can buy one of the older 992 Carreras. They're still depreciating, but significantly slower than the latest ones.
But there's another option. Go for one of the older generations. Prices for those Carreras have been exceptionally strong, and in some cases increased a bit.
If you want the latest and greatest, it's of course not an option. But if you think you have as much fun in a 991.2 as in a 992, while blasting down that canyon road, I think it's worthwhile to consider them. I've been advocating for this generation for a long time, and the price trends reveal why. We can see that prices have been flat since mid-2023, after following the pandemic boom and bust pattern. During last year, S's lost 0.8% and base models 0.9%, but these changes are so small that they're not statistically confirmed, so they could be the result of chance. The GTS and T markets are also strong, but the price uncertainty, displayed by the confidence intervals, is much higher. So the increase of 2.6% in the GTS market and decrease of 2.6% in the T market need to be interpreted with care.
Of course, there's a risk that a decrease in the 992 market will cause prices to drop in the 991.2 and .1 market. But at the moment I'm not seeing it in the data. As soon as it occurs, you will hear it from me in a new market update.
Speaking about the .1s, they're potentially doing even better than the .2s. The correlation between the two generations is high. You can see that the .1s were subject to the same boom and bust pattern as the .2s, and also that values have been stable since mid-2023. This means that prices are up by 1.1% in the base market, 2.8% in the S market, and are down by 0.9% in the GTS market. Now, as you might expect, these changes are too small to be meaningful. They could be the result of chance, so I think it's fair to say that prices have been flat.
Older Carreras continue to be immensely popular. We can see similar market strength for the 997 and 996 generations.
Over here we have the 997 market. There are many lines, but they mostly tell the same story. The story of price stability. Also, this market was subject to the pandemic boom and bust development, but to a lesser extent. Prices are still fairly close to their market top and display a stable development. Last year, .1 base models lost 0.5%, .1 S's 1.3%, and .2 base models decreased by 1.3%, and .2 S's increased by 1.2%. Again, I would assume a flat price development because these changes could be the result of chance. GTS's are up by 5.5%, but the price uncertainty as displayed by the confidence interval is high, so also here I would assume a stable trend. Also, the 996 generation displays price stability. You can see a split between the .1 and .2 base and S models, but the .2 S models only include the 4Ss. That split is not displayed because I don't want to split the base models by the drive wheel configuration. Prices are very close to the market top of 2022, as they've been stable since the surge in 2021. During last year, .1 base models increased by 0.7% and .2 S models decreased by 3.4%. The 4Ss seem to stick out here. A drop of 9.1% is rather high compared to everything that we saw before. But this decrease is driven by the cars with more than roughly 40,000 miles and an increase in market supply for these cars. Correcting for this, we arrive at a decrease of 2.7%.
We covered now quite a lot of numbers, so let's pull everything together and connect it to the video title.
Over here we have the yearly depreciation rates aggregated by generation. This shows that there's a clear break in the market. 992s, oddly enough, depreciated in line with the older generations, but in May this all changed. Depreciation rates increased massively, and now we can see that this elevated rate might be here to stay. The rates in the 991, 996 and 997 market in the meanwhile remained fairly stable. Sure, there is some volatility, but most of the time we're looking at rates of -2 to +2%. Potentially, there might be a bit of increased price weakness in the 996 market and increased price strength in the 997 market. But remember that the changes aren't statistically confirmed.
However, despite the increased weakness in the 992 market and it breaking away from the other generations, it sort of remains a value-conscious choice. Let me show you why.
Over here we have the US year-over-year price changes for almost all cars that feature on my channel. On the horizontal axis we have the price changes compared to last year in percentages, and on the vertical axis we have the number of cars to which this change applies. The average decrease during last year was 5%, and most cars lost between 10 and 1%. Combining the rate of the base and S992s, we arrive at an average loss of 6.5%. So this means that 992 Carreras lost more than the average, but didn't depreciate at extreme rates of more than 15%. Now it's not the most value-conscious option out there at the moment, but certainly not a bad one either. In fact, it's quite a good result, since most new cars lose significantly more than the average. You can buy it both with the heart and with the head. Naturally, the older generations outperformed the market. They all fall at the border of being in the top 25% of cars that lost the least, or fall fully inside this group. It goes without saying that these are excellent choices from a value perspective.
Now everything we talked about so far applies to the US market, but I know that a bunch of you are watching this from Europe, so let's also have a look at the German market. Unfortunately, I only have 9 months worth of data for that market, so I will just do a quick high-level comparison to the US and adjust for the missing 3 months.
Looking at the difference between the two countries, we can see that the depreciation rates are much higher in Germany. Yet, the ranking among the generations is similar, with exception of the 996. 996 is depreciated quite a lot in Germany, and this is mainly driven by the base versions. The 4Ss were stable. Similar to the US, the 992 is the quickest depreciating generation, and the 997 the slowest depreciating generation. Now, as I mentioned before, the numbers for Germany are still preliminary, and we need more data to gain confidence in these rates. So over time, I will dedicate more time to the German market. Let's wrap up now.
We saw that the 992 market broke away from the other generations in terms of depreciation, resulting in an average loss of 6.5%. So what does this mean for value-conscious buyers?
You have several options. You can postpone your purchase to see if this drop unfolds in a long-term trend or is just temporarily. Alternatively, if you want a car right now, buying a slightly older 992 is a good solution, as the drop is not as pronounced in that segment. Or third, you can simply ignore the drop, as the 992 is only depreciating slightly more than the average at the moment. This is still an excellent result for such a new car.
Yet, the most sensible option from a depreciation perspective is of course to buy a Carrera from the older generations.
991s, 997s and 996s are all doing extremely well and are outperforming the market.
Depreciation rates in Germany appear to be on a different level, and as more data is gathered, it will be interesting to see how the two markets compare.
If a 911 is too ordinary for you and you prefer the more exotic mid-engine look, stay tuned for the next video, as I will reveal the slowest depreciating mid-engine cars for every budget.
Now if you're looking for an analysis of a completely different car, like a front-engine GT model, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of that car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough results for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for a fresh market update.